Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag from the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
We are here with Barren County boys soccer coach Joe Mercer. Coach Mercer, you graduated 9 seniors, or you've lost 9 seniors one way or the other. Many of them played defense or were tried to protect your goal, that kind of thing. And one of those, of course, was also Seth Mitchell, which did he end up leading the state in assists by the time it was all said and done?
Not this past season. He did 2 seasons ago, but he did graduate Barren County as the all-time leading assist guy at Barren County's history. So
he was pretty good there in the middle of the field for you, getting the ball to others. Of course, he did pass the ball a lot to the leading scorer, Aiden Eichen, who is coming back from a knee injury. I think the projection is he'll be able to play this soccer season. The injury happened during basketball season, so he's close to that window. So I'm guessing you're hoping he's going to be ready to go pretty soon in the season.
Yeah, and his rehab's coming along really well. Talking to his dad and talking to him, and seen him out a few times. Don't know that he'll be ready for the start of the season, but we have a pretty good feeling. Hopefully he'll be back at some point this soccer season. But
other than that, you're trying to replace a lot of, especially on the defense and probably some skill positions in terms of like controlling the midfield and that kind of stuff, I guess.
Right. Out of the seniors we lost, majority of them were major contributors for us last year. Like I said, our entire defense last year were seniors. So definitely going to have to find some people to fill those spots, but we've had a few people stepping up so far this summer, and so I'm pretty hopeful.
Yeah. So when you're kind of looking at the team that you do have coming back, I know that you probably look at what they're capable of doing and that kind of thing, and project some expectations of if they maximize their potential, what you guys are capable of doing. When you look at your team, how do you kind of evaluate them?
Well, so we have quite a bit of returning players too that got a lot of time last year, and just hopeful that they'll take just one more step up to kind of fill in those missing gaps. But I think we're going to be pretty good. Again, goal is going to win district. Hopefully, we can take that away from the Scotties. Mm-hmm. For the first time in 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
I don't know, something like that. But we were close last year.
Barren beat them for 7 consecutive years, and then for the last 6 years, I guess Glasgow's kind of had the upper hand in the district.
Right, and the district championship went into extra time last year, and I think we lost 3-2. So we were right there last year. So that's our main goal every year, and I think it's attainable, but it's not going to be easy. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then you look at your schedule here. You guys get started pretty early in the season. I mean, what is it? In 2 weeks, basically. August 9th, you get started.
Right.
It's a little earlier this year because last year everything got pushed back.
Right. We're ready to go. Season sneaks up on you, after dead period, before dead period, I told the boys, like, when we get back, it's time to roll. And like I said, I mean, we're less than 2 weeks out from our first scrimmage. That's on the 5th, I believe, against Campbellsville. And, so the season's here, and, ready or not.
When you look down your schedule, are there games where you look at and you say, okay, that's going to be a game where I'm going to learn something about my team?
Honestly, I think every single game would be, because we have so many new people that are going to be starting or have major minutes. Mm-hmm. We have a few games on the schedule this year that we haven't played a few of the teams in a while. We have Warren East back on the schedule, and we haven't played them in a little bit, and they're always pretty solid. Mm-hmm. Bardstown, I don't know that I've played them in the entire time I've been at Barren County. Lyon County, Trigg County. So we have a few new schools. John Hardin's on there. Mm-hmm. So there's, a few teams right there. We have no idea about them, but got them on the schedule to kind of mix it up a little bit. So, but we're excited. We'll start with Hart County again. I think that's been our start past few years, and it's always been a close game. So,
Yeah, I noticed you guys. You mentioned the Lion and Trig. That's part of that Russellville Panther Classic that you're going to be a part of August at the end of the month, August 28th. I guess that's a Saturday. You guys will be playing. And then you guys are doing your Trojan Classic again this year in September 17th. I guess is it. How does that field look for that this year?
We only have 4 teams in it this year, so we'll play Franklin and then LaRue and Somerset, I believe, are the other 2 teams. And so we'll play on Friday, and then the championship game and the consolation game will both be on Saturday.
Gotcha. Back to your team, you mentioned you have some returning players and you have that mixture of new players. I'm going to guess that you're going to ask some players to play different roles and be in different situations probably than they've accustomed to, probably either growing up or in the program previously. Is that kind of the case?
That is. First person that comes to the top of my head is Enrique Colorado. He played a central mid for us last year and did a really nice job. And he'll be a senior this year. He played defense for us his freshman and sophomore year, but he's pretty skilled. So last year we were able to move him up because we did have so many defenders, and this year we're probably gonna have to move him back a little bit and get him more defensively minded. I said the main thing is trying to replace Seth in the middle, just with his distribution, and Michael Wilson is a kid that we're looking to hopefully do that, and Tyler Hagan is another kid in the middle that hopefully, they don't have the stature that Seth had. Seth was pretty big. He was a pretty big boy.
Yeah.
But both of them have really good feet and understand the game. So we're hoping that those 2 can replace what we lost and then some.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess when you're looking at that defense, are there other people that you're looking to move back there with Enrique, or are these going to be new guys who've kind of been playing defense?
Kind of a mix of both. Johnny Peden, he's got a little bit of time last year, not a ton, but he was great on JV for us last year. So he's going to step in probably to that center back role. And then another young guy, going to be a sophomore, John Edberg. He wasn't even on varsity last year as a freshman, but this summer he's really impressed, and him and Johnny worked well together last year in JV. So hopefully we can just translate that up and throw in Enrique and a few others, and I think we can make it happen.
Everybody focuses on the goal scoring, but when you as a coach look at your team or look at a soccer team, what do you think is the most important part of it?
It's kind of a loaded question. There's a whole lot. We had a talk at practice the other day. A lot of people think it's just kicking the ball around, and there's a whole lot more to it. So this summer we've been focused more on kind of the mental aspect of it. You have to know what you want to do with the ball before you ever get it. You have to know where your teammates are before you ever get it, where the other team is before you ever get it, and that way you'll hear people say playing fast. And that's the key to playing fast is having an idea of what you're going to do before it ever gets to you, not just get rid of it the second it comes to you and have no idea, what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So we've tried to do some activities in practice that kind of focus on that, trying to make sure we have the mental side of it down. That way it can allow us to play a little bit faster. Like I said, just looking at my team and what we lost, defense is definitely kind of the main thing we've tried to been focused on. So we're having to replace our goalie as well.
Yeah.
And so Gavin McCord is going to be our goalie this year. And he had a really solid JV season last year as well. And so it's kind of all new back there. But they've had a really good summer.
Yeah, he played a little catcher in baseball, so he's used to being hit by the ball or blocking the ball and having to do all that stuff. So that's probably good for him.
He did. I had him in elementary school, and a couple years ago we were playing in a JV tournament, and we didn't have a goalie. And I called his dad and said, "Well, he just come be goalie just this weekend. Like that's all I need." And he came and loved it, and I think he's really, really going to help our team this year.
Well, that's awesome. That's a good story.
It is. He's a great kid, and glad to share him with the baseball team.
Yeah, there you go. Anything else you can think of, Joe, as we get ready for this here soccer season?
No, we're just excited, and hopefully we're back to normal a little bit. So fans come out and see us. Last year they kind of tapered down the attendance there. So hopefully people come out and see us and out at the complex, and hopefully we can play some pretty good soccer and win a few games.
Maybe the student section will show up with the trombone again,
Yes.
and then that we can get that going back
Right,
again.
get loud. We like it.
All right, Joe. This is Joe Mercer, Barren County Trojans soccer coach, joining us today on the Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
We are joined here on the Brown Sports Bag by Glasgow Scotty's soccer coach, Ken Mahung. You guys have managed to win the district a number of years in a row. 7, I think, 6 or 7, somewhere in that neighborhood.
7.
Yeah.
Seven.
Let me move this.
Okay.
You can just talk over it.
All right.
I'll let it this point out. All right, and but it's been pretty competitive the last couple of years. You guys
yes.
managed to hang on and hold off Barren. The district changed up a bit because Monroe and Clinton ended up not having teams, or Monroe did, Clinton didn't, and then now they've moved the district around, and now you have Barren, and Allen County, I think, in the district.
That's correct.
So it's a little more like the basketball district. It's just that Monroe's not there. But when you kind of look at how you guys have been successful over the last few years, how do you think that has come about?
I'd say, number one, because of Barren. I know Coach Mercer, and he works really hard. Mm-hmm. So when we see them working hard, of course we have to work harder.
Right.
So they push us.
Yeah.
I believe that we're responsible for each other's success. And the best part is our kids are good friends with the kids from Barren County, from the teams. So we don't have that ugly, negative kind of relationship. Mm-hmm. I mean, they literally will talk to each other and challenge each other. So when we get in that field, they want to prove to each other, I'm better than you, but in a good way.
Right.
So they've definitely pushed us.
Yeah, and then when you look at your team that you have coming back from last year, you lost some key scorers, I
Yes.
think, from your squad, but
Yes.
you have some key guys coming back as well.
Mm-hmm.
When you kind of let's talk about the guys that you lost first. Who were some of those key guys that you ended up losing from last year?
Well, one of our top scorers almost every year, here.
Uh-huh.
He graduated. We had on defense Jacob and I forgot his name. Wes's brother, Eli.
Right.
Eli, don't get mad at me. Right? Great defensive players. We have Bradley, one of our midfielders. So and there's somebody else. They'll get mad at me. I don't remember who it is. But literally, we lost 6 seniors, and all of them were key players for us.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of them was very important.
Who are some of the people that you're looking at to kind of replace that experience this year?
Well, we have Jackson.
Yep.
Grant.
Mm-hmm.
So those two. We have Andres, who plays the midfield. Those are the 3 guys for the outside.
Mm-hmm.
For the goal, we still have Seth.
Mm-hmm.
So those are our juniors, pretty much. Well, seniors, pretty much. And then we have the younger kids coming in from the freshman years, or the freshman guys. And those are the ones who are looking to provide the help for us mostly. We have the younger guys that are now, they'll be sophomores like Nick, Aiden, we have some new players, and we expect them to step it up as well.
Yeah. Are you making any changes to how you guys play, or are you still staying with the system you have?
Well, our system, we play total football, so our system, which is total football, doesn't change. Mm-hmm. But the beauty of total football is that it's flexible. So we've never used the same approach the 7 years that we've played. Mm-hmm. Every year it depends on who we have, the players that we have. You know how small Glasgow is, the school system. So if we tried to stick with the same thing every year, we'd be in trouble.
Right.
So we have never, ever played the same way. But we still play with the same system. Mm-hmm. That might sound confusing, but I hope it makes sense.
Right. Well, and I mean, the system itself has worked. I mean, you I guess what you're saying is that you plug in the players that you have, but you play to their strengths, whatever those may be.
Exactly.
Within that system.
That's correct.
When you look at your season and your schedule coming up, what are your expectations for this particular season?
We're excited about this season, actually. We just came back from Bluegrass, and we saw our kids perform. the first game we had our younger kids play because most of our other guys were at GSP or GSE.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't show up for that first game. So we had our freshmen playing, and they did extremely well. So we're very excited about this season and going forward. We could see how we've been rebuilding the last 3 years, big time. We really have been. Every year we're losing 6 to 9 players. We don't have the population to replace them that easily.
Right.
But finally, we feel, the coaches and I, Coach Crow and Coach Fabiola, we feel that we're at a point where we see something that's coming with a lot of momentum. So we're excited about what we'll see this season from them.
So you have a pretty good mixture of the experienced players and then maybe some talent, skill coming up with your younger players, and you're kind of seeing that?
Not a good mixture of experienced players.
You're more interested in the talent and the skill that's coming up.
That's coming up, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not even the skill, because you're very familiar with our program. We don't have kids with a lot of skill. We've never had kids with a lot of skills. But we have kids that learn to play our system. And when they learn to play the system delivers for us. So we have never been... We've always said that we could play a team with the best players. If they played us 1v1, they'd beat us like 200 to nothing.
Right.
But when it comes to playing as a team, we will beat that team because they don't know how to play within a system, which we know how to do.
When you look at your schedule, you guys open up against Southwestern on September 10th. I think you told me you guys have scrimmages coming up as well that you'll be against Bowling Green and Warren Central. So
that's correct.
You sometimes your scrimmages may be harder than the actual games on your schedule in terms of who you're playing in your scrimmages. Is that kind of one of the things you like to do to try to get your team ready for the season?
No, that's not why we do it.
Okay.
We do it because I want our players to see the level that we expect to be at. The Bowling Green teams are very good and they have very skilled players. We can be there, and we want to know what it takes to get there. And by playing them, we see the quality, we experience, the kind of intensity that they play with, and they can remember that, and we can hopefully transfer that to our games.
Gotcha.
And then hopefully one day we'll beat them.
Right.
So that's the whole point.
Well, you mentioned you kind of been rebuilding the last 2 or 3 years in terms of getting talent in the program. I mean, you did beat South Warren, 4 years ago now?
That's correct.
In the regional tournament.
And it's after that we had to rebuild. That was the last strong team we had.
Yeah, so I mean, and even with that, you guys have had winning records all of those years. So it's almost like you've been reloading for the last 3 years to some degree.
That's correct. I like that. I like that analogy.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
But you guys open your regular season on August 10th at Southwestern, and that's usually a pretty solid program.
They're good. They're good.
And then your next game, you turn around and play Franklin Simpson on the road again, and that's usually another pretty solid program.
Yes.
Whenever you were building this schedule, do you build it in such a way that you're like, okay, I'm going to get a measurement of my team when we play these guys, and then we're going to see how we develop as we go through this schedule?
No, not at all. What we do is every game is a learning experience for us. So it's not just the 2 games. So you're on track in the way you're thinking, but we look at every game not by the score, but by how we performed. How well did we run our system? How closely did we stick to what we were supposed to do? And if we can do that all the time, we know that we'll be successful by the time the season comes to an end.
Yeah.
Now, we might struggle in the beginning because we're making adjustments, which we normally do, a lot of adjustments in the beginning, the first half of the season. But that's in preparation for the second half when we know, okay, we know exactly what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to do it. So now let's go and do what we're supposed to.
Yeah, and then you guys also you turn around on the 17th, you play Allen County Scottsville, as we mentioned, at home. That's a district game. Then you have it looks like a pretty tough run here. You guys play at Owensboro on the 21st.
Yes.
And then Bethlehem at home on the 26th. And then you guys have your Scotty Classic. And in that, you have Madisonville, North Hopkins, Taylor County, and Hart County, I guess, in that as well.
That's correct.
Tell me a little bit about the Scotty's Classic this year. Last year, things were all chaotic.
That's correct.
So how are you guys kind of get back to a normal setup for it this year?
Yes, it's a normal setup. We have 2 brackets. So we have 8 teams participating in the Scotty's Classic. There's is it bracket A and bracket B? Do you remember? No, okay, but there are 2 brackets, and it's based on the record from the previous year.
Okay.
So, for example, we have Madisonville, North Hopkins. That's a very strong program.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in our bracket. We have Taylor County. They've always been a pretty strong program as well.
Mm-hmm.
We had Ohio County, but they dropped out, so we had to reshuffle some things there.
Right.
Then on the other side, we have Hart County, Todd County, Allen County, and there's one more.
Yeah.
They'll get mad at me. But anyway, it's 4 in that bracket there, and then 3 on this side, and then we have Bethlehem. That's where Bethlehem came in to fill that spot.
Got you. What are your expectations for the season, just in a grand sense? I mean, what do you want your team to accomplish? Because you feel like it's a team
state championship, the KHSAA state championship, and the Class A state championship. That's always our goal.
Okay.
That's always our goal. We always say, we have to go for it all, and if we only win one of them, we're still very happy because, we got halfway.
Right.
But that's always our goal. No matter what our team looks like, that's our goal.
Okay. Anything else about this upcoming season you can think of you'd like people to know?
Well, I'd like folks to know that as a program, our kids have always fought for this badge, the Glasgow badge, in this community.
Mm-hmm.
And that showed again this weekend. I mean, we played some really huge schools, and our kids fought. They fought, and we're very proud of them, and we look forward to this season. We also want to thank the parents because they also support. They reflect beautiful things about our Glasgow community when we go off somewhere. There's no shouting, cursing, and we really appreciate them for representing Glasgow in a classy fashion.
All right, that sounds great. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's in Glasgow. This has been Ken Mahung, Glasgow Scotty soccer coach. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
We're back here on the Brown Sports Bag. John Butler and I are talking a little bit about some Major League Baseball and whatever else comes to our mind on this fine Tuesday afternoon. John, we talked a couple of weeks ago about the fact that the Major League Baseball trade deadline is often pretty entertaining just because unlike other sports, we just see, teams just liquidate assets, so to speak, and other teams think, hey, this is our chance. We're going to grab these dudes and see if we can finish the season on a winning streak and get in the playoffs and maybe win a pennant or something. And very often over the years we've been doing this show, the Reds are one of the fire sale teams. But this year they decided to try to go out and bolster their bullpen with some relievers and stuff, and I guess that's an indication that they believe that they really are in the hunt.
Well, they are in the hunt, so they're not wrong. I think we're right around 6 games over, and they're within 3 or 4 games of the wild card, and they're still 5 or 6 out of first place with Milwaukee right now. Mm-hmm. But they are definitely they're a solid second in the division because Chicago, the Cubs, quit. They get rid of everybody.
Yeah, they had the fire sale.
So they're done. I don't see St. Louis making a big move, and Pittsburgh is no factor. So yeah, they got a legitimate chance if their pitching holds up because their hitting has been. As usual, really good. But Joey Votto has put his best year up that he's had in probably 5 years. I mean, he went seven games in a row with a home run, and there's not 5 people in baseball history that's hit 7 consecutive games with a home run. So he's been on a tear, pretty much carrying the team because their best player, Castellanos, has been out. He's been out with an injury, a hand injury, I believe. So it's hard to tell with these. It does make baseball. It gives them that last kind of shot of adrenaline this time of year. It gets something to talk about the trade deadline. It's really difficult to see long term who benefits or who doesn't because when big trades are made, inevitably you're not trading one star for another star. That doesn't happen. You're trading. A team like Chicago is trading big pieces and they're getting players back that nobody knows about because they're minor league players.
Yeah.
And those minor league players could end up being great. So it's hard to tell. The Reds did get 2 relievers. I have no idea how good they are. I do know the weakness of the team has been their bullpen.
Yeah.
At one time they had the highest ERA in the league, in the bullpen, over 5. So I don't know if they probably can't hurt any, to be perfectly honest with you. But they didn't make any other glaring moves, and the Reds are just not in that position to acquire a lot of salary, to be honest with you. They could definitely use an ace, a starting pitcher, and some relief pitching. So I hope it works out for them, because the Reds are fun to watch, to be honest with you. They're a fun team because of the way they play.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting as I was looking at the records and that kind of thing. The Reds, as you mentioned, are just outside of the wild card race. They're within striking distance within their own division. But then you look at the NL. If they were in the NL East, they'd be in first place, because I think the Mets are at the top there. And if they were in the NL West, they'd be in fourth place, because there are 3 teams there with over 60 wins at this point in the season. And I always kind of think it's kind of interesting, and this happens in in other sports that are divided up in these divisions like this.
True.
That it's like, okay, the playoffs should feel like it should be reset sometimes, because these divisions don't really mean anything in the course of a season.
Well, I think I'd have won. My teams would have won a few more regions if we were in a different region too.
Well, you're right.
Yeah,
maybe you should have been in a different region.
Yeah, if you moved us to the 15th or 14th or 16th region, I think we won several more. So yeah, it is that is what it is. But they do have an opportunity that if you can't win your division, you can get a wild card. So,
which used to not be in the case in Major League Baseball, and a lot of, I guess, old-time purists probably still don't like the wild card thing. But
there's not a lot of old-time purists watching anymore.
Well, I was going to say there's probably those have all gone by the wayside at this particular point in time.
Right. The more, I've always felt like the more teams that can still have a shot at the postseason in a year, in a game in which you play 162 games, that's better for the fan experience. You want to think your team has a chance in August.
Yeah. Well, and if you mentioned the Pirates, or the Cubs.
The disappointing, the Cubs and the trade that I didn't understand more than anything was Washington.
Yeah. Because
Washington it was 2 years ago that they won the whole thing, and they traded. It's not that they traded Schwartzer. Now he's 37 and he's at the end of his 6-year contract, so I understand that. But they traded arguably the best shortstop in the game, Trey Turner, who's just 26. And has another year on his contract. They were both together in that package, and that's just, I don't understand that, because he's somebody they ought to be signing forever, and they got enough money to. So that confused me to trade those to the Dodgers. But yeah, if you're a fan of the Cubs right now, if you're a fan of Washington, that's not a good day.
Well, I was going to say, I was thinking the historical, long-time suffering fan bases. The Pirates in the last 20 years are that fan base.
They are. But they're perennial sellers.
Yeah.
But the Cubs didn't keep anybody. I thought,
I understood. It's so weird, because they just not long ago, they were the team to beat.
Well, it's 5 years ago, so that time's going by a little bit. But I thought they would keep at least either Bryant or Rizzo or the shortstop, Biles, and I thought it would be Bryant, to be honest with you. But they got rid of those 3 and their star reliever, so it's a complete rebuild job.
It kind of smacked of the Marlins, how they've been through the years, where they'll have a year where they're great. The next year, they just get rid of everything.
Right. The difference is Chicago has money.
Yeah. Well, the Marlins would have money for a year.
Yeah.
I guess they were trying to pay the taxes the next couple of years.
I guess.
Selling everybody off. Yeah, and that's the other thing about baseball. They talk about teams losing on purpose for draft picks in other sports like the NFL and the NBA and that kind of stuff. And baseball is like, if you're a fan of baseball, it's a year in, year out process of probably feeling like that with some teams.
Yeah.
That they're never really trying.
Well, it's just hard to tell. Like I said, when you get rid of your good players and you get players in return, you don't know about them because you haven't seen them. They've been in AAA or AA in another franchise. So you just hope that you're acquiring really good players that can help you quickly.
Well, and that minor league,
and it's not like those baseball players are not as well known as basketball players or football players or anything like that. They've been in the minors. Some of them some of them were drafted out of high school and they're just slowly work their way up or whatever. So it's Tampa. If you trade with Tampa, I would be very cautious with Tampa because they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they do seem to have a very good scouting operation in terms
They've got an unbelievable. They got a deep also minor league program too. So so oftentimes they can afford to get rid of good players because they got somebody coming up. That's got to play.
I guess that's the other thing. Some teams seem to have a much closer relationship with their minor league programs than others.
Right.
In terms of that's their focus and that's how they're building. And then others seems that their minor league is almost an afterthought sometimes.
Well, it's just the Reds minor leagues have not been that great, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time their AAA team, Louisville, won. They've been last for so long I can't even remember.
They're almost more famous for the rehab people who come through there.
Yeah, and they do have a pitcher at AAA that everybody's excited about. Their number one pick 3 years ago, Hunter Green. Throws about 100 miles an hour. He's coming off Tommy John, so that's somebody that they have been. All Reds people knows about him. But they hadn't got a ton of players to their minors, and that's if you're going to be a franchise, low budget, whether it's the Pirates, whether it's the Reds. Tampa, you better have a good farms team because you're not going to go buy free agents very often.
Yeah. Did you see, speaking of minor leagues and draftees, did you see the rocker from Vanderbilt that I don't remember who drafted him now?
The Mets.
The Mets are not going to sign him?
Saw that, yeah. Did not pass their medicals, elbow issue.
Well, and that's what you go back to how he looked in that game against Mississippi State.
Did not pitch well during the stretch.
No, and so it kind of makes you think about.
I'm surprised that wasn't. They didn't know more about it before the draft, but I think I heard somewhere. I don't know how accurate it was. I thought I heard on the radio or maybe it was on TV that he refused to give up his medicals before, so they kind of blindly drafted him. Yeah, and Scott Boras is his client. Is his agent too. And if anybody knows anything about baseball, he's a tough dude to negotiate with.
Right.
So he's out of luck. He either sits out a year or goes back and plays for free at Vandy. Well, he can make money on his likeness, I guess, but nothing like. He was slotted for millions. First round pick.
Yeah, I saw that, and
probably $4 million.
Yeah, like I said, immediately I thought to myself, well, that might explain the close of his season. But going back to what you said, you would think that just the scouting process of watching him play.
Well, if I'm the Mets, I would probably not draft him if I couldn't get his meds.
Right. That's what I was going to say. You watch him pitch. You've seen him pitch. You've obviously been interested in him.
Right.
You've seen him pitch through the years. You've probably had scouts at his games, and you got to think. Well, something doesn't look quite right, or it would seem. And you're right. Why would you draft him if you're just crossing your fingers and hoping?
Yeah.
That's a first round draft pick down the drain for the Mets.
Yeah.
And also on the flip side of that, it seems pretty sketchy by Rocker and his agent in terms of how they went about it from their perspective, hoping, I guess, to trick a team into signing him.
I don't know.
I have no idea. I don't really, because at some point in time the examination is going to happen, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it could be minor. It could be tendonitis or something minor. Or it could be something major. You don't know.
Right.
Well, I think we'll see what he does in the next year.
Well, and I guess from the Mets' perspective, they're like, we'll let him figure this out. We're not going to put any money in to start with.
Right.
And just put it all on him. And I guess maybe Scott Boras will take care of whatever the situation is, which would make him unable to go back and play at Vanderbilt at that point, right?
Yeah.
Or does that work that way in baseball?
I think he can go back and play.
Okay.
I don't know if I don't know what the rules are anymore. I think it's all changed.
Well,
he has not used his eligibility up.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's different between the sports, as we've talked about on here before. And I just don't know what the baseball deal is.
I don't either.
You got a couple of years or whatever after high school. If you choose not to go in the draft, then straight out of high school.
Well,
right?
this is his third year in school.
Yeah.
So he can go back and play his fourth year. I don't know if signing with an agent matters anymore. I don't know. That used to disqualify where you couldn't go back. So I don't know what the rules are now.
That's true. I'd forgotten that maybe has changed in terms of just signing with the agent. But either way, I thought that was a fascinating story. Yep. Just the whole dynamics around the whole situation I thought was pretty fascinating. Back to the Major League Baseball real quick. we've passed that halfway point and all that kind of stuff. We just discussed, who's on top in what division. After the fire sales and the buyers remorse situations here, how do you think this shapes up now for some of these teams?
I think the Yankees helped themselves.
Yeah,
they were desperate for left-hand hitting, and they picked up Rizzo, left-handed bat from Chicago, and then the left-handed hitter, I think Joey Gallo from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
They desperate for that. That will really help them. I don't know if their pitching is good enough, but that helps them a lot. The White Sox may be the team to beat. They got two closers because they got the Cubs closer. I think they helped themselves, and I think the Giants helped themselves when they went out and got the third baseman Chris Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they got the best record in baseball. That's just he's not going to hurt them.
No, they seem to be cooking quite well right now.
And he's a team guy too. When you're bringing somebody in this late in the year, when you already have good chemistry, you certainly don't want to bring somebody in that's got bad chemistry.
Right.
And he seems like he can play multiple positions. A good guy too.
All right. Well, that sounds good. I'm looking forward to the close of the season. My favorite time in baseball is this point forward after the fire sales and whatnot to see how things shape up. Like we've discussed before, I mean, all those games played in baseball just feel like too many. I actually enjoyed that small window that we had last year.
Yeah, the sprint, 60 games.
Yeah, I mean, that was
expanded
actually pretty
playoffs,
entertaining.
So it was.
Yeah. All right, it's Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, our first, I'm going to skip the rest of my high school career and go make millions as a college football player, apparently has occurred. This kid from Texas, he's supposed to be the best quarterback in the nation. You know how that goes. We'll see. But he has decided to skip his senior year in high school. He plays at, Lake Carroll something, north of Dallas or near Dallas. It's one of these, gigantic Texas schools with the 12,000-seat stadium and, they make movies about and that kind of stuff. But, yeah, so he's decided he's going to go ahead and skip this year and go ahead and enroll at Ohio State. And it was estimated that he could make $1 million in NIL money. The only thing I can really think of is I think of all of these pipe dreams of people through the years who have bailed on what they are doing at the moment to chase a sure thing. I'm using air quotes when I say sure thing. And, we also have 30 for 30s about that later on in life too, John.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, I'm not on the bandwagon where I'm applauding everybody that makes money, for everything you want to do. I mean, I'm not on that bandwagon. Skipping your senior year just to try to go cash in doesn't really impress me, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
If that's what he wants to do, then go for it. But we'll see how it all pans out. I think you're going to see outrageous stuff for a while, and then I think over time, I'm hoping that advertisers and business people and so forth like that may start taking second thoughts about just throwing money out for people that they think could be good or whatever. I'm just going to kind of step back and kind of watch this. But right now, I'm not a huge fan of some of this stuff.
Well, and this makes me think about the late 90s, early 2000s, before they implemented the one and done rule for basketball players, when all these kids just started jumping from high school into the NBA draft. And, you have some successes out of that stand out, like Kevin Garnett or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James. There are a lot more who hung around maybe in the league or never made the league very long, who didn't really cash in on this thing. And it always goes back to me in who's telling you or who's advising you on what you should do. Apparently his father is pretty actively engaged. His name's Quinn Ewers, I think is how his last name's pronounced, highly involved in this. But, I mean, that's great. I would hope that his father has his son's best interest in mind. But we've seen before that parents and family members don't. I mean, they're also trying to ride the gravy train. And so you would hope they're getting some advice from outside just the family circle or a close circle of people who are telling you you're going to be a millionaire. You know, you can be a millionaire next year instead of waiting 3 years or 4 years or whatever that number may be. And that's the part that I worry about and this is what we're going to see. We're going to see successes.
I should have
cashed. Abject failures.
I should have cashed in when I was 12 when I got 37 in a Little League game once. That was my mistake.
Man, if you'd have had an Instagram and a Twitter account, you could have a TikTok. You could have TikToked your way to fame.
Then at 16, we were the state Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth champions too, by the way. And
man, think about all the money you left on the table.
And we never did think about cashing in.
You left all that money on the table when you were 12 and 16.
I had a distinguished sweatband that I wore that probably could have cashed in with some company.
You know, one of the things my son and we were talking about this recently when we were talking about these NIL folks and this kind of things. We were talking about Brian Bosworth.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have been worth, and he was worth so much money in college that we don't know about that he probably got paid. But he was a much more prolific athlete in terms of notoriety or notice while he was in college than he was in the professional ranks. You know, He got paid to play professionally, but there's no telling how much money he had been worth at that time when he was, playing linebacker there at Oklahoma or whatever it was. I mean, it's kind of it's a fascinating thought when you look back through from that particular lens.
It is. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how all this is going to shake up. Like I said, I mean, he got his education paid for, and I'm sure he got a lot of benefits for being an Oklahoma linebacker that led to his professional career as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was hurting because he didn't have a NIL money at that time. But we'll see. Like I said, I think there's going to be some people that are going to directly profit early, and we'll see how this plays out 5 years from now.
Yeah. Well, and as we saw with the straight out of college or straight out of high school into professional ranks, and as we've seen in the one and done thing since then in the NBA, the determination of success and failure is not necessarily when you enter the league. It's what you do once you're there.
And I'll be honest with you, there's nobody in this world that I would pay to get an autograph from.
No, me neither.
I mean, those things I just don't understand. And that you're going to see that they're going to charge for autographs. You already see athletes right now online that if they've got these accounts up that you call them up, then they will call your daughter or son and wish them a happy birthday and things like that. And something about that may say, I just have a problem with that.
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem like would you do it without the money?
Right. Well,
and I'm not. Yeah, you may make that person feel good for that day, but I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of doing that for money. Doing it out of kindness is different.
Mm-hmm. That kind of leads me to the next thing I had down here was Sydney McLaughlin. She broke the world record at the
U.S. Olympic trials.
Yes, U.S. Olympic trials back in June in Eugene, Oregon. She runs on Wednesday against the person whose time she beat, Delilah Muhammad. They'll both be running in the 400, and I mean, it should be a fascinating race is why I bring it up. But I also think about this. She was a track star.
Yep.
She went to Kentucky for 1 year, and then she decided she was going to go on.
She went pro.
She went pro, and that was probably a good move for her because back to this NIL stuff, in these secondary sports, these full scholarship sports and things, it probably is more valuable for them, this kind of thing, versus if you're a football player or a basketball player. When I say more valuable, I mean actually now and probably long term for them, because there's not a professional league down the road waiting to hand them, if you're the number 3 draft pick or that kind of thing. So I think for these other sports, this is a little bit different than it is for basketball and football, whose name we already know, because these people are going to get money in ways that we're not familiar with.
I agree and I disagree, and here's how I disagree. Sydney McLaughlin is going to be made known because of what's going on this week, the Olympics.
Oh yeah,
because she was not well known as a track. Nobody watches UK track. I mean, let's just be honest with you. I mean, it's just not a big deal. But the Olympics is, just like with the swimmers. Mm-hmm. This is their this is where they make their fame, and to be honest with you, they make their money as well.
Right.
I mean, the NIL would help them some while they're there, especially if they're really, really good at this stuff. I do think that some money coming in will help them. But her stage, and for most of these athletes, whether you're swimmers, track and field, and things like that, this is their stage. It's Olympics, and that's why I like the Olympics. I like her too. She can really run.
Oh, yeah, she's been fantastic.
Yeah, she has been fantastic.
I mean, I think when she was 16, she set the under 16 record in the 400-meter hurdle.
Right,
so,
right.
I mean,
She's fantastic.
She's been great. And that also kind of leads me to talking about the gymnastics side of this. Because a couple of weeks ago when we were on here, we were talking about the women's gymnastics team that's the thing we have become really dominant at in the world. And then, Simone Biles at the forefront of that. And then she pulled out of the team competition stuff. The U.S. got a silver, which is, I mean, that's fine. They got a silver, and some people ended up getting an opportunity that were not going to get an opportunity, got their name known. But I started thinking about this in the sense that my mindset about these things was probably different 18 months ago than it is now. And for a couple of reasons when it comes to the Olympics, because you think about the Olympics, you train not year-round for the Olympics. You train in a window of time ready to compete in the window that you're going to be available. You want to maximize what you're capable of doing in that window. So all your training is geared toward that. And this Olympics got jacked up because it didn't happen last year. So all the training got out of whack. All the people's schedules probably got out of whack. And I was just thinking to myself, I felt badly for her, but what really irritated me was all these people out here running her down and they can't do half of what she does and already done. And so that kind of bothered me in that sense, that I felt badly for her, but also these armchair quarterbacks and whatnot and TV pundits who have never given anything of themselves for anyone else. They just sit there and pass forth accusations or put down people who are in situations, I guess, like Simone Biles.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's no question. There's pressure. I mean, it's an enormous amount of pressure when it's your one event. That basically you're on stage every 4 years. I mean, there's no question about it. There's a ton of pressure and so forth, but that also comes with the if there's no pressure, then the awards would not be as good either.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean that there's a yin and a yang to that too.
Yeah.
I mean that's and being put in the public eye. The reason why she was put in the public eye is because of she was an Olympic champion at 20, the greatest of all time.
Yeah,
and so that comes with it. I don't think it was the more I look at it, I don't think it was necessarily the mental health side of it, because she's handled herself with a tremendous amount of grace, cheering for her teammates.
I mean, she did the interviews.
I think it was more the I think they call it the tweezers or whatever.
The twisties.
The twisties where it became dangerous for her because she had lost her sense of balance in the air and so forth. Mm-hmm. And her it became more of a danger deal. Mm-hmm. Because all these athletes, I mean, those swimmers are facing an incredible amount of pressure and stress too, and they've told you about it too afterwards. Some of their experiences and whatever. So I was happy that the team, the other girl from America, won the overall gold. Mm-hmm. We won a silver. So I mean, it's not a travesty. She's okay. She's won a gold, and she's probably going to retire anyway. She's 24. That's kind of ancient in gymnastics.
Yeah, it is.
And I thought she handled herself well.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that was the thing. Like, there was a lot of people piling onto her.
But that's more in the Twitter world. Everybody on TV was pretty supportive, but there was the Twitter world, and some were complaining that she quit on her team and things like that.
I guess I was thinking more of the people who generally talk about politics and decided to start talking about sports.
Yeah, maybe, but
and who have never for once in their lives sacrificed anything of themselves for a greater good on any point, because they get paid to put people down.
Well, I mean, I think overall it worked out fine for everybody in terms of it was regrettable that it happened the day of the competition.
Yes,
that's regrettable because you really can't do anything about it at that time. That's a little that's regrettable. But I did like how she supported her teammates, and she was upfront and honest, and didn't go run and hide. And you could tell she's 24 and not 18. She handled herself, I thought, fairly well.
Yeah, the supporting her teammates part, I think, is the most critical thing.
I like that. Yeah, I thought she did a good job.
All the people who said that, the folks who said that she quit on her team, she did not.
Right.
She was there for them. She
was there for
them. She was there for them.
She didn't compete. But
quitting on your team is walking off the court, I guess.
If she had performed at her best, they would have won a gold.
But
with the way she was warming up, I don't think they won a silver.
Well, exactly, and that was one of the things I think in the vault that she had done. It was obvious that she was not right.
No.
And I thought, I'd watched her floor routine. I thought maybe her leg was hurt or something. I thought that's what was actually going on. But I guess it just turned out her equilibrium basically was out of whack. If you think of it that way, the twisties or whatever.
Right.
And so, it's mental in the sense of trying to get yourself in the right frame of mind to do something. But there is a physical ailment, I guess, there as well. That's part of it. And that was the other thing, I guess I thought to myself, a lot of folks who don't compete in things may assume it's easy to do. I mean, they seem to.
Well, because they make it look easy.
Exactly. They make it look easy. But this stuff is not easy. And that you're talking about working for all of that for just that short window of time to be perfect. Because, that's what it is. You got to score. You're trying to be perfect. That pressure is tremendous. And then all of the things that come along with it are tremendous as well. And you're right, you get to be in the spotlight because you're good at it, and that means people are going to take shots at you when you fail at it.
And she was very, she got a lot of endorsements and things like that, so she benefited from that fame too.
Yes.
But I do feel bad for her, and that it happened right then. I know she didn't want to go out that way.
I kind of thought of it in this sense. You think about being in a playoff game, all right, and there's a foul like with a second left or whatever, and somebody goes to the foul line, and they've got to make these free throws to win the game, to tie the game, whatever the thing may be. No matter what level you're at when you're doing that, that's a lot of pressure.
Sure it is.
No matter how hard you train, no matter how often you shoot free throws, it
is pressure. People need to realize, but you also enjoy.
It's the glory as well.
It's the glory, and it's what you work for, and everybody that does that from high school on knows that's the risk. There's if you don't know the risk, then you shouldn't play.
Right.
There's risk and reward.
Yeah,
and I've said that after losing regional finals. Mm-hmm. That's the risk. The risk is you're going to get your heart broken.
Right.
But the reward and even the lessons, whether you win or lose, are tremendous.
My issue is not with all that. My issue is with the people who take shots at people who fail at these things. And I get tired of that,
those people, they've always been around.
Oh, yeah.
They're just louder now because the social media makes them louder.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.